All right, man. Here we are. On this first episode, I'm going to do a recap of my weekend of shows in Royal Oak, Michigan, as well as give an in-depth origin story and of the Just Us tour. This tour, an independent tour that I put together all on my own, and basically how I pulled it off and how it started. So let's go. So since this is the first episode, I want to do, welcome, I guess, right? I should probably be like, hey, welcome. This is the podcast. It's Will. You know who I am at this point. My producer, Mike, is here. Mike, feel free to say hi to the people.
Hello, people.
Nice. That was pretty good. I liked how you did that. That was good. I kind of like people, you let it dry out. That was nice. That was really good. So real quick, I want to do tour dates just because I got to do that. That's business. You know what I'm saying? August 9th, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh. August 10th, I'm going to be in Cleveland, Ohio at Hilarities. It's a club I've always wanted to do. I'm very excited about it. August 17th, I'll be in Irvine at the Irvine Improv in California. September 7th through the 9th, I'll be in Tampa. And September 19th, Salt Lake City. September 20th, Phoenix at the Tempe Improv. That's another big one for me. And normally I may just give you a month or two out, but since it's the first episode, I want to give you just all the dates just so you have them. October 10th is Raleigh. October 11th is Charlotte. October 18th is Liberty Township, which is basically just outside of Cincinnati. October 19th is Columbus. November 8th, Omaha. November 9th, Kansas City, Missouri. November 16th, Hartford, Connecticut. November 7th through the 18th, Boston. 3 shows at Laugh Boston. Big weekend for me. Can't wait to see you guys there. Y'all have been bugging me for Boston forever, so I'm finally coming, okay? And I'm very excited about it. We got 3 big shows. Then in December, I'm doing the 6th of December, I'm doing Indianapolis, and December 7th, St. Louis. And then December 19th through the 20th, Naples, Florida, with all the rich, beautiful old people. And then December 21st, Fort Lauderdale at the Dania Improv. That's a lot of places. And I'm so excited about it and hope to see you guys there. And so yeah, dude, I have a podcast now. That's the gist of this real quick. And so I'll kind of just let you know how the show is going to work and how it's going to kind of operate is I'm going to do it essentially in different segments, basically. And how I want this podcast to be is essentially an honest, authentic, no BS version of what it's like to be a comedian, a stand-up comedian, to be more. Everyone's a comedian nowadays, so I'll be no, stand-up comedian. Okay, there's a difference. And for the OG fans of mine, you probably have watched maybe that's the stand-up vlog I have for a little while. It's kind of be a version of that where I used to have a vlog where I would every trip I would go to or every kind of week I would do a little vlog and recap, where I just was and kind of the real stories and the behind the scenes stories of what it was like. It's very much going to be the same thing here, just on a much bigger professional scale. And also I'm on this my first big headlining tour. So I'm really excited to kind of explain how it's all going. And
where can we go see that vlog?
That's all on YouTube. That's on my YouTube channel.
So it's a playlist right below this, yeah?
Yeah. It should be there. It should all still be there. It's a little older and kind of not janky, but it doesn't look like this. I was shooting it in my apartment, with my iPhone, and I would be on the road, with my phone, shooting stuff. But I'm really proud of it. And that was some early days of when I started to kind of really start traveling and doing comedy more intensely. And so, yeah, there's still a lot of fun stuff there to check out. But yeah, this is just a more souped up version of that. And so I mentioned segments before, and so for the first segment, every show will basically be called a road recap. So it'll be me describing where I basically came back from, and really just the honest stories and feelings I had from that experience. I think a lot of people in comedy, they kind of just talk about the glitz and glamour of everything, and they'll be yeah, another sold out show, or look at this, look at that, I'm killing it. But what's really going on? What's going on behind the scenes? What are you kind of going through mentally? Was there something you didn't like? Was there something you loved? Did something surprise you? I think as a comedy fan, personally, that's really interesting to me. And those are the things I would really want to hear about. And so that's what I would like to provide to you guys, is an honest look about, what it's like to be a stand-up. And so we're a little backlogged now, just because I need to put a few in the bank before I drop this. So a few of the weekends and weeks I'm talking about, they'll have been a little bit removed. Like this week, I'm going to talk about Royal Oak, Michigan, which was by the time you watch this was probably a few weeks ago, but it's still, my experience was still there, still the same thing. And so it'll be pretty up to date though. Let's say if I travel somewhere on like a Wednesday, the next week's episode will be about that Wednesday, basically. So that'll always be the first segment. Will be road recap. And then the second segment, usually it'll be some sort of guest. For this first one, it's just going to be me because, I don't know, I want to do a nice little intro Will podcast, a little solo podcast just to kind of intro the show and have you guys kind of get to know me a little more before I start having people on. And the guests are going to be all types of people, It could be comedians. It could be friends of mine who aren't necessarily trying to be in the spotlight, but they're friends of mine and they could be interesting people with interesting stories. Or it could be maybe like a comedy club booker or just someone who has an interesting job. Who knows? It's going to be kind of, every week's going to be something different. And it's not going to be so much like, this is the blank episode, like so-and-so is on, this is the big guest episode. It's more just going to be like, oh no, this is the segment of the week. Bring someone on, we'll talk, and that'll be it. And a big guest that's going to be a part of the second segment will be my girlfriend, Kaylee. Not only is she, beautiful, smart, funny, but she's also a therapist. And to me, that's like super interesting and valuable. Dating a therapist is like pretty great just because like it's helped me a lot with my mental stuff. And she's just, I really enjoy her perspective on things. And I've learned a ton from her about just mental health and the world and how people think, how people operate. And so I kind of want to share that with you guys. I'm pumped to have her on, man. It's going to be really fun having those conversations with her. And I don't know, I think we'll all learn a lot from it, honestly. And then the third segment, what I would like to do, and this is pending you guys, is I want to do what I call second opinion. It's essentially like an advice portion of the show. And so you can basically write in things you need help with, things you need advice advice to, what is that? Need advice for. Need advice for. I got it. And I'll do my best to kind of help. And oftentimes, whoever the guest is in the second segment, they'll probably just stay on and do the advice portion. So you don't just get a perspective of, my dumbass. You can have someone else like a therapist. Wouldn't that be cool to get a perspective from a comedian and a therapist? That's pretty great. And so normally a lot of podcasts will have you like email the podcast, your questions or whatever. I think it'd be easier to just DM the Instagram account. I think I'm going to try that at first. So the Instagram account will be @WillBPodcast, just Will and then the letter B podcast, and just DM the page. Pretty easy. And we'll look through it, find some good ones, and we'll bring them onto the show. Granted, for this episode, won't have any advice to give because there's no one even knows this exists yet, which is crazy. And then the second episode as well, we may not have it. So hopefully by the third episode, we'll start fielding some of your questions.
I could use some life advice.
Oh yeah? Okay. Maybe Michael, we'll get some Mike advice.
Got 20 minutes to think about it.
Maybe for the next, the next episode, I think Kaylee will come on. So maybe, I don't know, Mike, maybe you can think of one or two things you could use a therapist's advice from, which I will say, she'll say the same thing, but she cannot legally give advice. It's more just like, opinions and thoughts from just like a human who happens to be a therapist. So I just want to put that out and have her back on that. Also, really, the light gray shirt. I'm going to sweat through this fucking thing. I don't know what this choice was, but we'll see how this goes. I'm not that sweaty of a guy, though, which is nice. Okay. Also, something I want to say about the show is that, it's not always going to be like funny. I don't want people to tune in thinking it's going to be like joke, bits all the time. It's, if I have a guest on who's a comedian, sure, we're going to be riffing and having fun. But if it's just me talking, like, dude, I'm just going to keep it real with you guys and just give you, I don't know, my honest like thoughts and stuff. So I'm not just going to be trying to make you guys laugh the whole time, and to be honest, some of my favorite podcasts aren't comedy podcasts. I like interesting perspectives and like insightful interviews. And which I hope this kind of will be that, I all day and really all night, I try to create stuff that's funny, whether it be stand-up, whether it be the clips that I post, interacting with other comedians. It's like I'm always on trying to be funny. And so I think I'd rather create something with this podcast that's like real, human, authentic, And when you're a comedian, people don't really necessarily know like the real you. And And so, you know, I kind of want this to be the place where people can kind of get to know who I am as a person outside of just being a comedian. And yeah, so, and also this whole thing is going to be a work in progress. You know, those are the segments as of right now, but that could change. This is the first one, dude. It's all going to evolve, and you guys can be along for the ride. And I'm very excited that you're here. So with that said, take a quick break, and then I'm going to do a recap of my weekend, my first headlining weekend in Royal Oak, Michigan. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So when you're watching this, it'll probably be almost like, I'd say almost a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago, I did my, you know, I've been doing the road now. I've been on this tour for the last 6 months, and I've yet to do like a headlining weekend at a club. And what that means is essentially like when the kind of the peak for a headliner is you headline a full weekend at a club, which is normally 5 shows, like one Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. And that's like that's kind of the pinnacle of being a club comedian, you know, selling out 5 shows at a comedy club. That's like the peak, you know, selling whatever, 1,300 tickets or something. That's like a big deal. But it takes a while to get to that point. So for a guy like me who just started headlining, normally I get what's called a one-nighter, which is essentially like a one-off show. And that's typically on like a Wednesday. If you get lucky, a Thursday or a Sunday. But sometimes you do a Tuesday. I'm doing plenty of Tuesday shows, as many of you may have already been to by now. So it's mainly the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday type of vibe. But this one happened to be like a full weekend at a club that seats 390 people. And I did 4 shows. And what was funny is when the opportunity first came, I had actually, which I'll explain more about how it all worked when I was booking the tour myself later. But this is one of the clubs I had hit up to be like, hey, can I come tell jokes in your building? And I was looking for a one-nighter. I was like, I would love to just do like a Wednesday or whatever, because I knew I had a demand in Detroit. And this was like, it's in like Royal Oak, Michigan, which is like, it's like a suburb 30 minutes from Detroit. But either way, it was like one of the 2 main comedy clubs in the Detroit area. So I hit them up like, hey, can I do a one-nighter? And we were going back and forth for a while. I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen. And then out of nowhere, the dude offers me like a weekend, like a full weekend. And I was like kind of blown away. I was like, I can't believe that I just can do a weekend. That's crazy. And so, I sent it to then my agent, who I kind of alley-ooped it to her, and she slammed it home and had the deal. And now I'm just all set to do a weekend. It was amazing. And one of the stipulations was I couldn't bring any openers. I don't know really why, but I was like, okay. I think it was a thing of like a lot of clubs are kind of like with me, like, let's see how this goes. You know, this dude has some followers. He has a good agent. Apparently he's a good dude. Let's give it a shot, you know? And so I think with this, we'll give him a weekend, but like we're using our own local people to open the show, you know? And this is the first time where I went alone to a city. Because normally on every other tour date, I've had an opener, whether it be my buddy Anthony Sturriddy, my buddy Nolan Culver, Ashoka Thomas. These are all buddies who I've taken to open for me. And but this one was just me. And what maybe I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like I'm probably like one of the most independent, self-sufficient people, I don't know, in LA. I'm like, I can be alone and have 0 issues. I don't need people around. Frankly, I don't like having people around sometimes. I love just doing my own thing, being kind of a lone wolf, running around doing shows, writing in my head. You know, my sister is a lot older than me. She was 16 when I was born. And so basically I kind of grew up an only child. So I had to learn to be like super independent and super self-sufficient. And so, which actually helps me a comedian, because it's such like a one-player game. And so, you know, when someone tells me, you know, you can't bring openers, I'm like, okay, that's fine. It'll be a little vacation for Will. That's fine. I have no problem with that. And so I was actually really looking forward to it. It's just kind of doing my own thing and just kind of enjoying the moment, you know, this big moment in my career, doing my first headlining weekend. It was nice to just be completely focused on like myself, if that makes sense. I took Spirit there. The month of July, I took Spirit to basically every other trip. And let me just be the first to say, Spirit, it's fine. Okay? It's fine. And Mike is laughing. I can see him vibrating because he probably doesn't agree with me. Let me just say this first. They give a bad rap, and they're fine, okay? let's be real, okay? They charge you for a carry-on, which is fine. Dude, you get like basic economy on like United or JetBlue. It's the same thing. You have to you pay for a carry-on, okay? Bring a backpack, free, okay? And you have to pay for a seat. If you don't care, you don't have to pay for that, right? Dude, my flight from here to Louisville, which I'll talk about next week, dude, it was $86 one way. That's crazy. Like, who cares what the airline's like? Dude, it's just another airline, okay? The seats aren't as comfortable, but like, who's comfortable there anyways? Are you really on Delta? Like, this is so nice. I could be here forever. Like you barely recline. Like, dude, Spirit's fine, okay? I can advocate. I don't know if Mike, if you've flown Spirit before, but it's fine.
I've flown Spirit, and I've seen much bigger airlines make much more famous people than me cry. So
exactly.
What are we talking about
here?
Yes,
you're totally right.
Comparing shit to turds?
Yes, exactly. You're right. And it also, opinions about airlines, it's like, whatever airline fucks you over, that's your least favorite airline. If like Southwest fucked me for Christmas last year when they had a meltdown, dude, we were stranded. So now I'm like, I don't think I like Southwest. Granted, they made up for it. They paid me back for some stuff, which was very impressive. Hundreds of dollars. I'm impressed, okay? But they're just all the airlines. You'll get screwed by every airline. It's fine. So if Spirit has the best deal, I'm going, okay? And sometimes I'll even buy the big seat. The big first class seat, they do like the 2 in the front, they do like 4 seats that are big ones. Dude, it's nice. That first class Spirit is basically just Delta. That's what it feels like. So I get to Royal Oak late, or Detroit rather, late, and it was one of those like Uber pickup from the airports that was just like insane. Like, you just gotta go to a place to get the car. The best is when you exit the airport, you go to arrivals, and the car comes up. But it's never like that, because you gotta take a thing to a thing. Dude, I took a shuttle to a thing. I got to the thing, and my driver was at a different terminal. So now I had to get back on the train, take a bus to the guy. Dude, this guy was waiting there. This Lyft driver was waiting there for, I'm not joking, minimum 30 minutes. Like, minimum 30 minutes. I think it was 40 minutes, to be completely honest. And I care so much about like people's feelings. Like, I was so worried, like, oh man, like, not only should he, he can cancel, that's fine. But the fact that I kept him waiting, I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for this dude. And it was late. It was like 1 a.m. And I was like, oh no. And I messaged him and I was like, hey man, I just got off the flight. I'm hustling there. And the first thing he said is like, okay, well, time is money, but I'll wait. And I was like, this fucking guy, he's already doing the time is money. Like, how is this going to work? So the whole time I was like, oh God, this guy's so mad at me. And, I'm messaging him. I'm like, I went to the wrong terminal. I'm taking the bus to the, it's like, I'm like blowing this dude up. He isn't even replying. It looks like a guy who's desperate to talk to his girl or something. He's like, are you still there? I'm coming. I promise. Dude, it was crazy. And I was so nervous that he was gonna be so mad. I was so apologetic. And I get in his car and he was like the nicest, best dude ever. He was like, oh, hey, yeah, no worries. You're good. I was like, this motherfucker was here for 40 minutes. And he was just like, yeah, it's all good. No worries. Hey, it happens.
I think the people who still do those jobs, if they've been able to do it this long and not kill someone,
yeah,
I think they're the new special customer service person. I think they've made it.
I think you're right. I was so impressed by his customer service. It was just like, he felt like a homie. He was like a friend, dude. To make matters worse, this is the first trip that I forgot a phone charger. And so I was already, dude, in the midst of all this, I was on like 5%, just dipping around this airport. I've had 2 times in my life that I yelled, fuck. And this was one of them. That's happened twice. And dude, if you know me, I'm a pretty chill dude. It takes a lot to get me mad, but I've had 2 times. I missed a flight in Vegas with Kaylee and I was like, fuck. And then this one, when I found out I went to the wrong terminal, I was like, this fucking airport. And so and with the phone dying it heightened everything. And so, I get to this dude's car and I'm like, yeah, my phone's going to die, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, not only was he like, hey, no worries, man. He was like, oh, I know a 24-hour gas station around the corner. Why don't I just take you there and get a phone charger? I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm moving to Detroit. This is the nicest. It was like the contrast of the anxiety, the anger for this dude was just like, you're good, man. We're good. Here's a phone charger. Relax. I have a power bank. Here, I'm like, what's happening right now? It like completely changed my whole perspective of the night, dude. He dropped me off at like 2 a.m. And anyways, I can go on forever about that. There's so much more. I haven't even gotten to the shows yet. I'm already rambling about the Uber ride. But the point of why I bring this up is a testament to how cool the people were there. The dude at the front desk, who I ended up being buddies with because he was like the overnight dude at the hotel because he was always there. So I'd see him and be like, oh, what up, dude? And he was there. He like offered me like a free salad that was in the thing. He was like, oh, do you want that? You can just have it. Like, just like the coolest people. And I don't know if that's a thing about the Detroit Royal Oak area. I mean, you can let me know in the comments if that's like a known thing, but people were so cool, man. I was so impressed. And so going into the weekend, so like I said, it was 4 shows, right? The club held 390 people, which is like big. It's a big club, arguably too big. The best comedy club size is like at most 300. Like 270, 260 packed in. That's the best. That's like a perfect amount of people. 390 is a lot. Dude, if you've ever been to like the improvs in like Southern California, like Brea Improv, Irvine Improv, these places are so big. Brea's like 600 seats. And I mean, I headlined Brea last year and it was like, bro, this place is too big. Why? If you sell 120 tickets, it feels sad.
As a cameraman who's filmed at Brea multiple times, I will tell you, being able to navigate that whole back area with it being almost empty every show.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, is this for me?
Dude, I know. It's like they reserved it for other people to just mess around with cameras in because it's so goddamn big. Like, am I Dave Chappelle? Who's selling out the Brea Improv? It's so big. A lot of people probably. And anyway, so the club is big. And because what was so crazy about this weekend is that like, it was going into the weekend, it was already the most tickets I've ever sold because the people had options. If I do like a Wednesday in Dallas, for example, which I did, if you live in the Dallas area, you have one option to see me, and it's that Wednesday. And if you can't make it, you're not seeing me. And that's just what it is until I come back for a weekend, hopefully, right? But this one, you have options. You have Thursday, you have Friday, you have Saturday, 2 shows Saturday. So you have options. And so I inherently already was just moving tickets because people had options. And the way these weekends work at comedy clubs is people just go to the comedy club. That's why it's there. Comedians headline there who don't even have a draw, meaning like they can't like really sell tickets like for real. They're just great comedians who maybe haven't found their niche yet, found their way to move tickets. And so people just come see the club anyways. It's obviously still in business and they have those weekends. And so now, but if I do, let's say a Wednesday in Dallas, bro, like 90% of those people are there to see me specifically. You don't just go to a club on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, you know? I think you got to really know the person. There's a few walk-ups, people who are like, I'll go to the show, but that mostly happens on the weekend. So now I have my own draw, like my own fans coming and just fans of the comedy club. So I'm already selling like a bunch of tickets throughout the 4 shows. And it's really like, it's kind of not overwhelming, but it was kind of like unbelievable, you know? Like I think I went into the weekend with, I want to say like over 500 tickets sold. Like when I was in, like by Thursday, it was like over 500 tickets. And like, that's a lot of tickets. I think the most was like in New York. I think I sold, over 400 tickets across a few shows. And so just the fact that this random suburb in Detroit, tickets were just moving. It was kind of surreal. And I will say, man, this town, Royal Oak, by the way, place rocks. It is so nice.
Also, props on doing that in the summertime, because summertime when
Yes.
they have options too,
Yes.
that's a cold weather city.
Yep.
In the summer, they can be on a lake, they can be hiked, so many things.
Yeah.
So that's an accomplishment too. Usually the summer's dog dick.
You're right. Well, dog dick, that's crazy to say that. But no, you're right. Everyone kept saying like, oh, great for the summer. Or like, oh, wow, you did this in the summer. So I'm glad you brought that up because I actually forgot about that. That was people always say the summer's really bad comedy weather. Just because no one wants to be, especially in Michigan. Ain't no one got to be inside if it's beautiful out, finally. Places like Chicago, Milwaukee, you ain't going to the shows in the summer. That's why I'm so excited to do Boston in the winter. I'm like, can't wait for that, you know, because people want to hide. So anyways, just props to Royal Oak as a town. That town is beautiful. It's so nice. I had everything I needed. That's the best, dude. All I want if I'm in a town, I just want everything. I want everything 5-minute walk to get coffee, to get a nice breakfast, a grocery store. That's all I need. And it had all that. It was so perfect. I loved that town. I genuinely loved that town. So first show Thursday, there was like 150 tickets sold for the Thursday show, which was like awesome. That's so good for a Thursday. Shout out to the manager of the club, man. His name's Bill. And he was like, dude, this dude, he looked like an ex-wrestler. He was like 6'2", bald head, goatee, hoop earrings. This motherfucker was in the WWE. He was like one of the first WWE-ers for sure. He was like the sweetest. He's one of these dudes that has like, has like 5 sisters, and it's him. So he's just this sweetest, like most empathetic dude, even though he looks like he could snap me in half like a Twix bar. But he was the nicest, coolest guy, and he made me feel right at home, man. He was like, all right, you got this. If you need this, go here. I'll give you this. You need this, I'll take here. You need food, let's go next door. Here's the manager of the restaurant. He's going to give you what you need. I mean, he was parading me around like I was, like he just was, like I was like a little dog. He was like, here's you go. There's this. It was really cool because a lot of clubs sometimes they treat you like you're just like the next guy or girl or person. You're the next voice that they hear while they're making drink money. And that happens. And I've experienced that. Well, clubs will be like, okay, you're who? Okay. Yeah, great. Whatever. Just go. Yeah, fine. Here's a menu, whatever. But this place really, I felt like, appreciated and looked out for. He was like my dad over the weekend. It was awesome. And the first show Thursday was so fun. It was like surprisingly fun. I was like, wow, it was a great first show. And, that was the, if you know me, you probably saw the clip, the clip I posted with like the couple who was like, the guy's name is Price. And I was like, yes, he doesn't understand, like that whole, clip. That was from the, on my Instagram, it's called Royal Couple. If you want to look at it, that was from the first show in Royal Oak. So it was like off to such a fun, great start. And the main thing that I noticed after the show is that there were so many people that didn't really know who I was. Which, like I said, these are just people who go to the comedy club. And so I hadn't really dealt with that much because all my shows, like I said, to this point, were these one-nighters. And so after the show, it's like a whole room of people who know who I am, which is amazing. But when you go on stage in front of, let's say, a room that half knows you, it's a like a difference, you know? The cheers you get are like a little like, okay, let me get to the mic a little quicker. Like, there's not a lot of like, oh, hey, I'm here. It was like, oh, okay, all right, hey, let's start the show. So that was really interesting just to see people at the meet and greet just walk right by me because they were like, yeah, he was funny, but I don't need a picture with him. Who cares? He's just a comedian, you know? So that was something I hadn't really dealt with before, which was really interesting. And it was cool because then I got to kind of hopefully win them over and make them fans if they didn't know who I was already, which is really important, you know? And so I was staying in a hotel, which normally I do Airbnbs on the road just because I like to, you feel kind of like a person, you know, you maybe have a backyard, you can get groceries, you have a nice little bedroom. It's sometimes a better experience than hotels, but this is my first hotel I stayed in a while and it was so nice. Having that gym right there, the key, there's no Airbnb, there's no like, oh, here's the door code, don't let the cat out. The hot water has to go to the left. And it's like, there's none of that bullshit, you know? So hotel, it was just easy. And then we did the Friday show, which is about 200 people there. And I was like, holy shit. Turned out to be the best show of the weekend. The Friday show was sick. And it was just cool to be able to just kind of do my own thing. You know, I love having openers and buddies on the road with me. You know, I've been through such amazing experiences with my friends through that. But man, it was nice just to do my own thing, man. Just to like, I don't know, be in my own head, be in my own world, not be responsible for anybody. It felt really nice.
Did it feel like that first day of college when you left home? Like that's the only thing I can equate to. Like when you moved somewhere new for the first time.
It did, but in the most like comfortable way. There was no anxiety associated with it. Like I really felt like a lone wolf. Like I was on my own. I didn't have to look out for anybody. Yeah, it was like that, but it was like first day of college, but like my older brother went to college there. So like I know what to do. I know how to act.
First day of senior year.
Exactly. First day of senior year, just so confident and comfortable and just I don't know. I like to be on my own. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it. Then we did Saturday. Saturday early show was fucking packed. There's 300 people there. Saturday early show, and late show ended up being 260. Crazy, and And what's crazy is that both those shows were like tough somehow. Dude, the Thursday show had like half the people, way more fun. These people were like cool and I did well and I had fun, but it was like they were like holding back that first show. So when we got to the late show, I was like, oh, this will be the good one. Because they're not both going to be like this. Late show was harder. I was like, wow, that was not great. This one's worse. It was like, how did that happen? You know, for how many people are there, it was like, be better. There's so many of you here. There's 300 people in this room. I'm good. Laugh more. and so I will say, well, let me start with the bad and then the good wrap up. So something happened on the last show. The last moment of the last show is, so I don't want to give away the ending to my set, but I close my set in a very specific way. And that's all I want to say about it. I closed with a joke that I'm very proud of, that I've worked on for a long time. And I ended in a very specific way. And if you see me live before on this tour, you know what I'm talking about. I hope that it's memorable. And in the middle of the bit, like I want to say probably 30 seconds before a moment happens, I say something it's hard. I don't want to give it all away, but there's a very poignant moment that I have in the end. And a dude in the crowd in the front, there's like an older, I'd say like a middle-aged, maybe late 40s, early 50s. There's two guys and one woman. And the dudes are these like country club kind of upscale white dudes who are like, like thinking that they're like the funniest guys in the group. Like, oh, let me tell, well, actually Jim is that's you think Jim's funny. Like one of these type of dudes. And I could hear him kind of chiming in a little bit throughout the show. And here's a little behind the scenes shit. When that happens, usually I try not to address it. Unless they're really cutting me off, I just let them just talk over them, because people in the crowd, they oftentimes can't hear this. They can't really hear that. That's only for me because he's right there. So I try to usually just blow through it, ignore him. Don't give him his moment. He wants to be a part of the show. Don't give him that. Let him just be, he'll shut up. And so he chimed in a few times and I just ignored it. And so on the last thing, he said something right as I'm about to finish that essentially like ruined the last moment. Ruined is a strong word. I'd say it cut the laugh like in half, because he said something that ruined the moment. And in the moment, I was kind of just like, hey, shut up. And because I was in the middle of like, ba, 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 ba. And he said something and I was like, no, shut up. I got it. Like in my head, I was like, fuck. But out loud, I was like, ha ha ha, shut up, man. Ha ha. Like I just kept it. I was like, don't lose the momentum of the bit. Just be in the moment, So I said the last line. It got half of probably what it usually gets. And then I finished my set. And this is the last show of the whole weekend. This amazing, huge weekend for me. That was the last moment. And as I'm walking off stage, the host comes back. This dude, Ryan, who's very funny and very cool. Ryan Brown, I think is his name. And he, and as I put the mic in the stand, I stared at the dude like the whole walk back to the backstage. I like put the mic in the stand and just glared at him the whole way. And then I left. And that was the last moment of the weekend. And so, because you've seen the clips of mine, I record every set. So I have that clip of me staring at the dude as I'm leaving. So we're going to play it right now. And let me just preface this. So again, this is the ending of the show. The last moment of the weekend. I have not seen this clip yet. I just remember the moment, and this clip's about 15 seconds, and yeah. So we'll probably break it down, but maybe we'll just play it like in full for the first time, and then I'll talk about it. But this is me just glaring at the dude. It's gonna be we're watching. It's probably gonna be off to the left, I think, of me. So yeah, you can. All right,
I gotta go. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Cool. Have a great night, everyone. Take care.
Okay, that wasn't as dramatic as I thought. So let's go back now.
Have a good night.
So in your head, that was slow motion.
In my head, I stared at that dude for 45 seconds.
I'm going to play it again with no audio.
Okay, cool. So let me tell you. So yep. Hey, set's over. I got to go. Thank you so much. Being cool in the moment. And here's where I start icing the dude out. Boom. Stared at him, leave. And he locked eyes with me too. He was like staring at me too. Like I wanted him to know that he fucked up, basically. Here, maybe take here, maybe freeze it on the time where I start to just stare at him. Here, wait. And boom. I mean, yeah. Boom. Right there, dude. I am like, I want this dude to know that he really messed up, and I'm staring at him like not wavering. I am so pissed at this dude for ruining that moment. Man, I wanted to let him know, you know? And at the meet and greet, he walked right by me. He didn't, that group didn't say shit to me, and I was glad they didn't. Man, I swear, it's so funny watching this because I haven't seen it yet, and I literally thought I was staring at him for so much longer. That was what a moment that he'll never remember. That's such an irrelevant thing for him, but to me, that was so important.
You need to take my GoPro on the road so you can have the crowd recorded. So then you can flip that and you can say, hey, someone's uncle in the green shirt, go get your man.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Get fucking Gregory or whatever his name was.
That look.
Dude,
that look.
I was mad. But I still kept it together, though, because, I mean, people get somewhat... I don't get that mad, but I was still just like, this motherfucker. Anyways. So that was the last moment of that of the show. And also if you're listening to this, I don't know, I mean, just go on YouTube and probably watch this. That's probably worth watching if you want to see me staring at someone angrily for 2 seconds, which I thought was a lot longer. Maybe I should have watched this before. Oh well, that's fine. Keeping it real with you guys, you know? This is what this podcast is gonna be, dude. So anyway, so with the, just to wrap up the Royal Oak stuff, is that the total amount of tickets I sold this weekend, it was 927 tickets, which was unbelievable. And thank you guys so much if you were there. That was such a big moment in my life. That amount of tickets is pretty crazy. And I hope that that'll lead to more weekend opportunities, because that's like a legit amount of tickets. So to me, that was one of the biggest comedy kind of weekends of my life. And I'll never forget that, man. A shout out to Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak, Michigan. It was so fun. I can't wait to be back. And yeah, so we're gonna take a quick break, and then I'm gonna do a deep dive into the Just Us tour, how it started, and everything that came of it. So we'll see you in a sec. So we're back. I've been looking forward to telling this story in some capacity for a long time. Excuse me. And you know, I didn't know if I was going to tell it on somebody else's podcast or some sort of interview, but I'm kind of happy that I get to do it here on my own podcast, is just giving you guys like the real behind the scenes story of my tour. And it was called the Just Us tour. You know, the name has since changed because I don't really, you know, you'll find out why momentarily. And sorry for the throat clearing. So I'll give you like the super kind of backstory. So during COVID, I luckily was getting, you know, a good amount of unemployment to where I was able to focus a lot on like creating content and putting up stand-up videos. And even though stand-up wasn't happening, I had a lot of old footage that I had, and I would just start to put up random clips, and a few of them went really well. And I started to accumulate all these followers, to the point that then once COVID was kind of over and we were doing shows again, I started really committing to filming, putting up clips, and, you know, all of a sudden now I had like a bunch of followers, thanks to all these different apps and thanks to you guys actually watching my stuff. So now all of a sudden I had like all these followers, and then I got a kind of a job that no one really knew about, other than like my close friends and my family. I was working for Snapchat. I had a deal with Snapchat where I would put up 2 videos a day on their platform called Spotlight, which is like a TikTok It's like every app has like a TikTok now, basically the scrolling videos, you know, and Snapchat they wanted to pay creators to put their content on their platform to build it up, basically. And so I was paid, you know, well enough that I like paid my rent off that. And I had that for like, I mean, I put up 2 videos a day, didn't matter what they were. I always put up a stand-up clip, obviously, and then just one random video of just whatever I was doing. It was like the coolest job ever. And it literally, like, I built up a following on Snapchat and gained all these fans through doing that. So I had this really cushy, beautiful situation. Even when unemployment ended, I had this Snapchat thing going. And this was in 2021, 2022, I guess, at this point. I'd been doing it since like 21, 22, around that. So a couple of years. And so throughout all this now, all the followers came and people really started hitting me up to like come to their city, you know, like, oh, you got to play Denver. You got to come to Chicago. And in my head, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, man. Like I would love to, but that's not like how it works. To perform in a city at a comedy club, you can't be like, hey, I'm funny, I have followers, can I perform now? They're like, no, that's not how this works. Get out of here. Don't email me ever again. So you really need like an agent to do that. That's how the system works, is an agent will hit up the club and be like, I have this guy, he can do this, he has this many followers or whatever. That's probably how it goes now. And then the club will, that's just how it works. And it's not the club's fault that that's, they're not like assholes for denying people like me, but that's just how the system worked. It's that you needed an agent to be the middle person between you and the club. That's just how it works. That's how the system is. And that's all good. But again, so I couldn't really do much when these people would hit me up to be like, come to my city. I was like, okay, but what am I going to do? All I had to do is I had to just wait and just keep building to the point then I could have enough of a demand that, maybe an agent would sign me because they think I could sell tickets. Maybe the clubs would start hitting me up. I didn't know. All I focused on was just building. I was like, I called it, I was in build mode. I just had to keep putting up content, building the fan base. That's all I had to focus on, right? Everything will come when it's going to come, At that point, I got a college agent. I worked and submitted to a college agency, so now I start doing college shows. So now I started doing a little bit of that. Didn't do many, but I did a few college shows, which were very interesting. And so that's kind of where I was at. And in the midst of doing the college shows, the Snapchat, putting up content, I created this email list. And I don't think I can take credit for this whole email list idea. I think obviously email lists have been around forever, but it's a specific email list where you get the people's city and their email. So then not only can you email them when you come to their city, but now you have a distinct like data for where you have demand and where you should go and where you could maybe sell tickets. So I started pushing this email list big. And again, I don't think I created that whole email city thing, but I was definitely one of the earlier people to do that. To now everyone basically does that, which they should, because that's like, you need to know where your people are, So in the email list, it was starting to get kind of like big. Like I was getting like a bunch of emails, like a bunch. I remember, I think it was 2000. Now my dates are all mixed up, but I remember I was in Hawaii opening for my boy, Michael Blaustein, who's like my older brother. And I remember looking at my email list thing, and it was just like, I was scrolling. It was like email after email. It was like 100. It was like, and simply by just putting it on my Instagram, like, hey, where should I come perform? At this point I had almost, I guess at that point I had like over 100,000 followers. So people were like, my email list was thousands and thousands of people. I want to say like at least like 5,000 people probably in major cities. It was a big list. And so I got to the point where I was like, man, I think I could sell tickets in these places, because all these people are like, come to my city, it was 100 people in this city, 200 people in New York and Chicago and all these places. I was like, I think I may be able to do this. And at this point, I've been doing comedy long enough that I've headlined before. I can do, the required amount of time. I was like, I think I can kind of do this. And so I took a big, and so here's what happened is that this was I really should have looked at the time, but it doesn't really matter about I think it must've been the end of last year. In like the fall of last year, the Snapchat thing, they ended it out of nowhere. And that was my income, right? It was like, we're ending the program. Thanks for everything. But see you later. Go find another job. Go work at a coffee shop now. It was very much like, it was like an oh fuck type of moment, because I was living off that while I was building up everything else. So I was like, okay, shit. And when you hit those moments of like adversity, how you respond is like so important. I easily could be like, well, okay, I guess I should go work at Ralph's and bag groceries. Or you can take that and be like, great, now I will use this as motivation to then go do something, go create something, go, like one door closes and the door you go into could be even better. I've been fired from many jobs in my life because I've been pursuing comedy and things have gotten in the way, and I've been fired before. And it always turns out to be like the best thing that ever happened to me. Because if you get fired from a job, you wouldn't have never gotten the next opportunity that is oftentimes better if you hadn't have gotten fired. So I tried to remember that mindset of like, okay, this is ending, but this could be good. This could be the kick in the ass that I needed, right? So to now back up even further, I've had very specific dreams in my comedy career. being able to just headline a comedy club is pretty much, that was the dream. I want to be a headlining, touring comedian. I also want to do some stuff in acting, but if we're talking about just stand up, I want to just be a headlining comedian and touring. That's what I want. And I wanted to specifically, I wanted to be with this agency called WME, William Morris Endeavor. It's one of the big agencies in Hollywood. It's basically, there's like CAA, WME, and like UTA. Those are kind of the top 3 big ones, you know? And so now this is in, I want to say this is in probably 2021. This is probably a year before. I'm in New York City with my boys, Brent Morin and Jason Collings. And Brent's agent was at WME, and he was like the biggest agent there. This dude was like a top dog, and I knew who he was. And the dream in my head was that this dude would like be my agent one day, you know, that I could be with a top agent at WME. That was like my dream, you know? And so when I was in New York, I was doing his shows, Brent's shows at Gotham, and he told me that his agent was going to be there. I was like, oh shit. Like, and this is before all the the crazy amount of followers and stuff. This is a little bit before that, while I was still kind of building. And so I remember he was going to be there, and I was like, oh man, like this is crazy. And he was going to like watch me do stand up. Like that's what a high stakes, crazy moment. Like my dream agent at a dream agency is going to watch me do stand up in New York. It was like, the pressure was pretty crazy.
You got a pitch and the scouts are there.
It was one of those moments. It was like one of those big, like, what are you going to do? Like, here's like the fastball's coming. Like, what are you going to do? You know, luckily I had a really good set. And he talked to me after. Super nice guy. I don't want to say who he is just because that doesn't really matter and no one needs to know. But he was super nice to me. He gave me some great notes, notes that I still think about to this day. You know, he kept it really real and it was just really cool. And I remember I emailed him when I got back to LA after that trip and was like, you know, hey man, just great to meet you. Thanks again for the notes. And he was like, yeah, you know, keep pushing. I remember this is embarrassing, but I'll keep it real with you guys. I actually printed out that email and I kept it near my desk that he sent me. And he basically said, like, keep pushing, the talent is there. And to me, that was, again, I think 2021, I think it's 2 years ago. That was all the motivation I needed to really like put my foot on the gas pedal and like hit this shit hard. Is this dude telling me like, you're funny, just keep doing it. It's just about the reps. Just keep getting funny. So now to flash forward to now where we're at. I have all these followers. The Snapchat thing ended. I'm a little worried, a little freaked out, you know? And so I was like, you know what? I think now's the time I think I'm going to hit him up again. And I think I'm going to hit him up to be like, hey, like, how do you feel about repping me? He also is an agent of a good friend of mine as well. So, you know, we're in the same kind of circle. And I was like, you know, I think I'm going to give this a shot. And it was a very kind of like nerve-wracking moment to be like, I've waited on that moment and that ask for so long. And I was like, I think I'm just going to do it. Like, now's the time, you know, I'll do it. And so he emailed me back pretty quickly and basically was like, I don't really have the time. You know, I hope, you know, keep doing what you're doing, but like, I don't really have the time. I can, you know, take an internal pulse at WME, see if anyone has any interest, but you know, I'll get back to you. Gets back to me and he's like, yeah, I couldn't really get enough interest. Maybe we can circle back in another time. So I was basically softly kind of rejected from the agency, which was totally fair. It made a lot of sense. I was unproven. People didn't know if I could sell tickets. And nowadays, just because you have followers does not mean you can sell tickets. That is not a guaranteed through line. That's not point A to point B. There's so many other factors, you know? So I think them softly rejecting me made total sense. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. But that was another moment in my life that I was like kind of a little bit of failure, right? Rejection. And I took that and was like, okay, now what? Now let's do something different. Now let's pivot, right? And I was like, okay, I looked and I was like, I have this email list. There's thousands of people on it. I know exactly where they are. The demand is there. Why am I like waiting for an agent to create this opportunity for me? Why don't I just go do this myself? Why don't I just go create a tour? Why don't I just hit up venues? I've made connections at a few clubs. I can do research on a couple of different venues, and let me just do this myself. I'll hit up the venues myself. I don't need someone else to email them for me. I got it. And so that's what I did. I started, and this was in the fall of 2022. I basically was just like I was in a full-time job where I was planning this tour for myself every day, emailing, calling, researching, like quietly. I didn't say anything to anybody really. I mean, the close people in my life knew what I was doing, but I was just quietly planning this whole tour for myself. And I wanted to change the game. I wanted to like change how this works. To me, the system is a little bit like archaic, even though it makes sense, right? You need an agent. That's the clubs. It all makes sense, and that's how it should be. But to me, I was like, well, maybe it doesn't have to be that way, you know? Maybe I could just change how this works.
You did what every indie filmmaker did to get their start.
Yeah, exactly. I just took matters in my own hands, and I was like, I got it. Let me just do this myself, right? And I took a lot of pride in that. I was really excited about it because I knew no one was really doing that. I think people have done kind of indie shows or, booked a venue, and they've done this before, but not at the scale that I was doing at. My plan is that I wanted to do, like at first I want to do like low investment cities. I took what the email list was, and I said, okay, well, the first cities I want to do, it was from like January to like, I think beginning of April or end of March. And it was like, let me do a bunch of cities that are easy to get to. I call them low investment cities. I'm talking like places like in California, San Francisco, San Diego, LA. We'll do Denver. That's like a 2-hour flight. Seattle, Portland, 2-hour flight. Because in my thinking, I was like, if this shit don't work, I won't be out that much money. Do you know what I mean? It was like, if I only sold 50, 60 tickets, maybe I'll break even. Because I really had no idea how many tickets I was going to be able to sell. That was the thing, is I was just like, well, I think I'll sell a few. I did the Brea Improv, which we talked about earlier, August of the year before, and I sold like 100 tickets, 120 tickets, which is pretty good for me not having really any like big credits, just the online stuff. So I was like, if I can do that much in Orange County, maybe I could do better in a Denver, right? So yeah, the low investment cities is what I was shooting for, and finding the venues was really the hardest part because you just need to get a response back from places. And that was so hard, is getting a response. And some places, they got back to me and it was like first choice. It was like they got back to me quick. It was my first choice. It was like seamless. Some places it took a long time. Like I remember in San Diego, the venue I went with, which ended up being great, that was like my only option. There was like nowhere else I could do it. It was like, it's that place or nothing. And I was like, looks like we're doing that place. And so the way it worked with the venues was, see, normally at a comedy club, you get what's called a door deal, which means you get a percentage of the ticket sales, whether it's half of the ticket sales, 70%. If you're really balling, you're getting 80, 85. It's all about how the agent negotiates it, which is why you really need an agent. But with the venues I was finding, they weren't mainly comedy clubs. These are just kind of these indie little black box theaters that they do all sorts of stuff in. They do theater, they do music, who knows? It was just a space that I could look at and be like, all right, I can see that, I could see being on that stage doing stand-up, or some places they've already done stand-up there before, so they know what they're doing a little bit. That's how I was kind of gauging it. And so a lot of them, it was like it was like a rental fee. So it'd be like, you can have the space for, let's say 2 hours for like, whatever, $500. And then I got to keep all of the ticket sales. And so it's kind of like a door deal, but I just probably made more money that way, if that makes sense.
They call it four-walling in your industry. They call it four-walling in the film industry.
What do you mean by what is that four-wall?
That's just a term that they have that for you're renting out the place and you buy it for whatever their fee is, and then you collect the money.
Yep.
As opposed to having like an AMC deal for a big movie theater, like that type of thing where they're doing ticket splits and all of that in box office.
Great. Four-walling. I like that. So yeah, I four-walled so hard, dude. There were so many walls.
Four-wall all them theaters, bro.
Yup. You already know. And it was cool but it was also kind of crazy to be like, yeah, here's $600. Hope this works out, It really is just like, it really was just betting on myself. That's really what it came down to. But I did manage to get a few comedy clubs through one of the dudes who runs a few of the local improvs, who was how I got the Brea Improv. This dude named Cyrus. Shout out to Cyrus. He's the man. He like after doing Brea, he was able to give me 2 more improv clubs in that first tour. I did the San Jose Improv. and the Ontario Improv. And he later got me Dallas at the Addison Improv for the second leg of the tour. But either way, I'm just bringing that up because I did have some help where this dude like kind of stuck his neck out for me and got me dates at 2 legit clubs. So it was a fun mixture of like I had a few indie venues, a few comedy clubs. It was like a little tour, and and after a while, I was slowly just like signing contracts, locking down dates, continuing to build clips, or put out clips, build a following. And then at a certain point, I was like, shit, like at the end of the year, I think it was in December. So I'd been working on it for a few months. At the end of the year, I was like, I have like 13 cities. I was like, I have a tour. Like I have a thing. It's just like a tour. I did it. And it was all the cities I wanted. It was like, San Diego. I think it was like San Diego, LA, Denver, Portland, Seattle. There's some Texas stuff. I think I did Houston, Austin. I did DC, Washington DC early because I was give myself some credit on this one. This was smart. I had a college show at James Madison in outside of DC or in Virginia. So I was like, oh shit, I'm already going to be there. My travel is going to be paid for. Let me do my DC shows there. I'm already there. Let's do knockout DC. So it was really funny to be like West Coast. All of a sudden I'm going like the farthest east I could possibly go, but I was already going to be there. So it was like this beautiful accident, and so that was perfect. So I had all these cities lined up. I shot this really cool video explaining what the tour was. If you're a fan of me, you probably saw it. My buddy Tanner, shout out. He shot that video, and just I explained basically being like, hey, I don't have or maybe Mike, do you want to maybe like try to pull that video up? Actually, it's on my Instagram. It should be the thumbnails like tour announcement. And it's just me basically explaining what the tour was. Cause I mean, announcing the tour was that was such a special moment for me. Cause I was just like, I'd been working on it for so long. And so being able to actually tell people was like so exciting and so fulfilling. And people were like, holy shit. People were like, I can't believe like he's actually coming to my city. And, or like he's actually touring. It was just such an exciting moment for me. And then the day after that is when I put out the first leg of dates. You scroll down a little further. It should be one more tour announcement right there. Yeah. Like I want to
refresh that with volume for all you.
Yeah, here we go.
People being yo, come to this city, or you got to come to my city, and like I want to, but it's
playing for them,
really
just not for you.
To get booked at a comedy club, you basically have to go through an agent or a manager has to hit them up, and I don't have either of those things. But what I do have are fans. I've basically had to wait around for the industry to give me like permission to do a tour, and I'm kind of tired of waiting. So I decided to put together a tour all on my own, with venues reserved by me. It's basically a tour by the people, for the people. It's just us. We'll see you soon.
Fuck a plug, you don't need it when you plugged in. They know it's us, we don't need no introduction. It's just us, we don't need no one for nothing.
So yeah, so putting out that video was it's so funny, the comments, it's how many blocks did you walk to get this recorded? Yeah, I do it a bunch of times. So yeah, put out that video, and it was a big moment for me. I was so excited to put that out, and then I finally dropped the dates. I dropped the dates the next day, and then we were off. This was December 7th, 2022 is when I dropped the first leg of dates, and so most of the venues were like anywhere from 100 to 150 seats. The clubs like the San Jose, the Ontarios, those were big clubs. So I was like, okay, San Jose is 450 people. I was like, that thing's like a theater. I don't think I'm going to, who knows how many I'm going to sell there? We'll see what happens. So I honestly, I had no idea how this was going to go. I knew I'd sell a few, but I had no idea. It went on sale and I was absolutely blown away because of you guys. Like blown away, dude. San Diego, that show, it sat, I think 102. That show sold out in 24 hours, which was insane. And so I added another. And then by the time that show came around, that one sold out. So I sold out 2 shows there. And all of a sudden it was like Denver, the venue was 162 people. That was sold out in a week. Los Angeles, I did it at the Ha Ha Comedy Club where I started. That seat's I think 140. That sold out in a week. So I'm like adding shows now. It was like the most fulfilling, unbelievable moment. Like not only did this work, but it worked like immensely well. Like people were coming through. It was, I mean, everywhere. It was like Seattle, gone. DC, crazy. I was doing 5 shows in DC at a little 50-seat room, and those were like going. Sold like almost 300 tickets there. Denver sold, I ended up selling 330 tickets, I think, 320. Seattle. So the Seattle one was crazy, is that I was doing 2 shows Saturday at this place called the Rendezvous. It's like a 65-seat room. Sold out 2 shows there, like in the first week. I was like, that's crazy. And in the planning stages, I had hit up a comedy club in Seattle called Laughs Comedy Club. And they were like, you can do a Thursday, which I was like, cool, thank you. But I want to push for a Saturday. Like I really want to do a Saturday. So I politely declined. And when the Saturday show sold out, I hit them back up and I was like, hey, how about that Thursday? And they were like, sure, let's do it. So I added a Thursday show in Seattle, and that club seats 190. I already sold 120 tickets. By the time I landed in Seattle, that show was sold out too. Crazy. It's like 330 tickets in Seattle. Who the fuck do I think I am? It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. It really made me like, it changed my whole, well, no shit, it changed my life, but it changed my whole self-worth and perspective of what I can do and what I could accomplish, is that like all these people are coming out to see me. It was crazy. And now there's this like buzz about it. Like I have comics hitting me up, friends hitting me up. Like everybody's like, dude, this is nuts. And comics are like, how did you pull this off? Like they were asking me questions. People are like, can I open for you? It was like such a crazy few weeks when I announced that tour. I don't think I'll ever forget that, man. You guys really like just, you have no idea like how happy that shit made me, you know? And so at that point I was like, well, you know, let's start planning the second leg. Like clearly this works to an extent. And so I started just kind of, you know, when the tour started, I was already in the midst of planning the next leg of the tour, which is like April to July, you know, to go. And I was like, let's go east. Now this works to an extent. People bought the tickets. Now let's do Chicago, New York, Philly, you know, let's go east. Essentially, let me pay for those flights now that I know I like a base group of people who could come out, right? So here's what's crazy. I go to DC. All the shows are sold out. I do the college show, James Madison, which, by the way, college shows, or fuck college shows, colleges in general are always so far from anything. All the best colleges, it's there in the middle of goddamn nowhere. I did like Cornell. Dude, it was like, I feel like I was on The Amazing Race trying to get there. It was like, take a flight to Buffalo, rent a car, drive 2 hours to this city in the snow. It was treacherous, dude. So James Madison, same thing. Fly to DC, stay in DC, get a car, go to Virginia, drive to the Harrisonburg, Virginia, the middle of nowhere, and was just like, where am I? Show was fun, but it was like, where am I, right? So I drive back. By the way, in DC, I rented a Tesla. This is not a flex, small flex, not a big flex, because the Tesla was cheap. It was like cheaper than any other car. I didn't mean to say car. It was cheaper than any other car, you know? So I rented a Tesla, which was hilarious. I have no idea. That thing's like kind of hard to drive at first. So just in a Tesla driving through the middle of nowhere in Virginia. I'll never forget that.
That's the last place you want to go, in the middle of nowhere with a Tesla where you can run out of battery.
Great point. That's a great point. I did have to learn how to charge it and do the whole thing. It was crazy. I was on the back roads. People were like, "Where are you from, boy?" Like it was wild. But shout out to that school, man. They were really fun. And I drove back. There's a point to the story, by the way. I'm not just blabbering. I drive back. My buddies, Anthony and Ashoka, are in DC because they're opening for me on the shows. We're at the Airbnb, and I get back, and it's really late at night. And I open and again, this is at the point now where the tour's already kicked off, tickets are already sold. I'm very open at how they're doing. Like, I'm very much making it known that this is going well. Like, buy tickets, it's going well. Tickets are selling out, you know? So I made it very known what was happening. I wasn't like hiding my success from the world. I was very much, you know, embracing it and excited about it. So I get back from the college show. This is right before I had done one tour date at this point. I had done San Diego. That's it. DC is my second tour date. And I get back and we're like making food. It's late at night on Thursday before the shows, and I check my Instagram, my DMs, as I do, just to see what's going on. And I get a message from a lady, and she says, and I'm going to read the message. It says, Will, reaching out to say hello and introduce myself. It's pretty damn cool what you're doing in booking this tour. Definitely caught my attention, and I'd love to connect. I'm a comedy touring agent at WME. Let me know if you're open to hopping on a call next week. So there you go. Before I knew it, I was and still am now repped by William Morris, WME, the agency that kind of, I don't want to say, they passed on me at first. And so instead I took that pass, that whatever, that soft kind of rejection. And I said, okay, that's fine. I will now prove that I'm a worthy asset of investing in and do this myself and just show you guys that you should invest in me. And it was literally like a dream come true. Not only now was the tour going so well, but it went so well that now I was now repped by my dream agency. And it was so full circle that it was really, I was like kind of speechless. I couldn't believe that was happening. And so she's still my agent to this day. And I'm just so incredibly grateful and happy. And she's really changed my life, because now what was great about having her is that now I can actually go perform at all the comedy clubs that I've always wanted to. As fun as the indie stuff is, it's like I also really want to do the main comedy clubs, because that's like all the places I've dreamed about performing my whole career. It's like now I can finally do them. I have the connection through that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you want something, if you want to do something, like, don't wait around. Go create and innovate. Rejection will always happen. It's what you do with that rejection that matters. I bet on myself, and I got everything I ever wanted. And as sort of an epilogue to the story, I think a lot of people may say, why not just keep doing it that way? Just keep doing the just us vibe, just you and the people. Just, why do you need an agent? You were killing it. Why do that? Because it's hard. It's a lot of fucking work. And finding the right venue. Oftentimes the venues weren't built for comedy. Some of the shows I did were like I didn't love the setup, whether it's the lighting, the sound, the venue's too big. It was like, I wanted to have a space that's actually built and designed for comedy. And it's nice to have a club that seats, let's say 300, because I like having a high ceiling, so I can actually see how many tickets I could sell, as opposed to, let's say, a place like San Francisco. The venue capacity was 99, and that sold out. And it sold out months in advance. So I was like, damn, like, what if I had a bigger venue? Like, how many tickets could I have sold? And so that was the real reason why I wanted to like lean into having an agent, booking me at actual comedy clubs, and having someone also negotiate for you. You know how uncomfortable it is to negotiate on behalf of yourself and try to get more money for like a deal on a percentage of ticket sales? Like, that's uncomfortable. Like, that's why agents are so great, because they can be like the bad guy or whatever. I can just sit back and I'm the artist,
When they get to look at 100 other people's deals and tell the club that they know what the other deals are,
Yeah.
It's a very different position to negotiate from. And they will earn their 10% on top of whatever you would have had by being a negotiator.
Exactly.
They won't make your moment for you. You made it yourself, but they'll earn their keep.
Yep, 100%. 100%, you're right. And so it's just nice to have someone in your corner who can actually like do that work for you. And, I'm like I said, like, dude, I'm like a comedy nerd, dude. I grew up like idolizing comedy in these clubs, and there's clubs I've always dreamed about performing, and because I'm now with this agency, I get to perform there, Places like Hilarities in Cleveland, that's like a bucket list club. Places like Denver Comedy Works, I'll probably do next year. That's like a bucket list place. Like, these places are so important to me. The Tempe Improv, that's a huge deal to me, And so without her and without this agency, I wouldn't have probably been able to get those. It would have been really hard. And so that's why I, didn't exactly stick with the whole just us thing long term. But But dude, thanks to you guys, man. You guys really made this all possible. I think that's what I want to end with is that, you know, like I said, like you can have all these followers, but like that doesn't mean much if they don't actually come out and see you. And you guys did. Like you guys really came out and came through and literally made my dreams come true. So like from the bottom of my heart, like thank you. And I owe, you know, I worked really hard for this, but I also owe a ton of it to you guys. Cause, and I tell people like that after shows, I'm like, man, I'm here cause of you guys, you know, you guys made this shit happen for me. You know, I wasn't on some big TV show. I wasn't on some big movie. I'm just like a guy who's been grinding and working his ass off to be the best comedian I can. And I want to just showcase that, to you guys and the internet as well. So, anyways, man, now it's just, you know, everywhere you see me, it's going to be clubs. I'm so excited. All your favorite clubs that you know, in your town, I'm going to be there and continue to, you know, go on this ride with me, man. It's only going to get better. And I'm things have been going so well for me. And yeah, that's the podcast this week. Again, shout out to all you guys for just rocking with me through this whole first 6 months of the tour. I'm probably later down the line going to do a whole like tour recap extravaganza where I recap like all of the first cities I did, like all of the first 6 months, in depth, you know, cause I think there's a lot of fun stories from there. Maybe have a couple of my buddies on who were there for them. And so, yeah, so again, come see me on tour. The big ones coming up, like I said, are going to be in August, you know, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Irvine, and Orlando. Those are big ones coming up for me in August. Would love to see you guys there. And thanks for tuning in to the first episode. You know, the solo pod vibe, it's not going to be super, you know, I'll have my little road recap at the beginning, but this is going to be kind of one of the standalone solo ones. So I hope you guys liked it. Please, you know, feel free to leave comments of things that, you know, you liked or things that you want to hear more about. And, you know, I'm excited to go on this journey with you guys, you know, and, yeah, man, I don't know. I guess I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.